charter if they really wanted to go to a high-powered lawyer.
The illustrious
Collect
Walter
from every
Collins.
municipalities
Yeah,
at once
yeah.
to make it worthwhile.
Oh, yeah.
All right, ready? All right, we have a quorum. We'll call the second meeting of August together for the Liberty Grove Town Board. The clerk will note all supervisors are present, in addition to the clerk, treasurer, and the administrator. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. If you have a cell phone, if you wouldn't mind putting it on vibrate or turning it off. And a reminder to the supervisors to speak into the microphone. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, we need to approve the agenda. Number 11 should be out.
I'll make a motion to approve it as mentioned.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We have the minutes of the 5th of August regular board meeting. Are there any additions, corrections to those? If not, I'll move their approval as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Treasurer's report, Janet?
In the municipal checking account, we began with a balance of $242,691.81 and 11 cents. After transportation aid and the municipal service aid with some interest, the balance in that account was $298,919.83. In the money market account, we began with a balance of $577,798.10. After interest posted, the balance in that account in end of July was $577,881.52. In the checking account, we began with a balance of $342,526.45. After deposits, payroll taxes, disbursements, and payroll, the balance in that account at the end of July was $186,438.73. The balance in the utility funds is $564,450.15, with a balance in all town accounts at the end of July of $1,627,690.23.
Are there any questions?
We got enough money to make it to the end of the year?
We'll make it last.
I'll move that we approve the treasurer's report as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Payment of bills. Are there any questions on the bills?
Just a quickie, Elaine Johnson, did we buy back a cemetery plot there? What happened?
She had purchased a cemetery lot and paid for a burial for Gretna Johns, and called back and said, well, they've changed their mind, they're gonna do something a little different.
No.
So, we are refunding her that money.
So she doesn't have a cemetery plot?
Correct. She was going to be buried on her parents' grave
Oh,
anyway, so I
Right.
don't know what they're gonna do.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the checks as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Next is public input, and quickly before we get to that, for the board's edification and also those present, Bud Nancy and I met with a couple of representatives from Safe Build. Safe Build is now Associated Appraisers. They have taken, it's the umbrella organization.
No, for IIL.
Or IL, okay. And what they are going to do is give us a proposal on zoning administration. And Nancy's going to take that to the planning committee, get the planning committee's input on that, and then have it come back to the board. So, okay. Opportunity, anybody want to address the board right now? On any subject later on? We've got a small enough group, we can strictly go ahead with that.
Got a little item.
Uh-oh.
The Highway Committee walked the beach road on Monday morning, marking the trees to be cut for the improvements on the road. There was about 10 or 12 people that walked with us. It was a fairly cordial event. We walked, it took us 2 hours, which was pretty good for 2.8 miles of road. And I had my PVC pipe there marked 6 feet and 8 feet, and it worked well. Did a little bit of negotiating. We have a little bit left to do with 1 or 2 property owners. I haven't inventoried all the trees for a total number yet, because we did go pretty fast, but assuming if I get time this week or early next week, I got my map made up, and there are some people that are gonna call up and want to know what might be going down on their property, so we'll have that inventoried, and whoever answers the phone can tell them from the map what's going on their parcels, so it was pretty good, and at some point now we'll quickly get an estimate from somebody on the cost for taking down what we got marked there, so went pretty well. Mike, our highway committee chairman, could not make it due to a dental plate issue, so it did go good. It did go well. I went out with him yesterday to look at what we had done, and he was pleased with it. He was surprised that we did not mark some of the trees that he thought should be marked, so it went well. We're in good shape at this point.
And how were the cookies?
Oh, yeah, Barb Luring
Yeah.
brought cookies out for the group, partway through the walk, so by that time I was getting a little thin in the skin, so it was
How many trees did that cost you?
good energy. Yeah, we just walked right by her parcel, so.
Okay. All right, anybody want to address the board on any subject? If not, we'll simply move on then.
Can I ask you a question, John?
Yes, go
Why
ahead.
did you decide to contact this other corporation about zoning?
That's,
Would that be a board decision to follow up on something?
well, they basically contacted us because this is something new that they're doing. And this is probably more of an outfall out of the tower and the possible, at some point in time, removing ourselves from Door County zoning.
If I could say something
Yeah,
on
go
that
ahead.
too. A couple of years ago, the Plan Commission did some pretty in-depth studies about possibly doing the town's, our own zoning as a town. And at the time, IIL, we thought, had offered this service at one time, and they did at one time. But at that particular time, they had withdrawn the service. And that was probably the biggest thing that caused us to back off from that, because if it can't be done through a third party like that for a percentage of the fees, it would necessitate the town hiring its own zoning administrator with full benefits, the whole 9 yards, and it would just be very cost ineffective. This company that has purchased IIL is bringing on more staff, and they already do the zoning for Union, and there are quite a few other towns that they have done, and they do it for a percentage, so there would be no outlay for the town.
So how did you handle like variances and?
We would have our own, conditional uses would be handled by the Plan Commission as they are now, but that would be the final word. Variances would be handled by our own Board of Appeals, is my understanding, but it would have to be approved
Right.
by the County Board of Supervisors.
Whose zoning are they administering? The county zone?
We are required, if we adopt our own zoning, to start with the county zoning. And then every change or amendment that we would make would have to be approved by the county. But that would be our starting place, and what the Plan Commission would be doing then would be going through it and going to areas in the county zoning that we know are not already know, are not necessarily in Liberty Grove's best interest, and we would be changing those slowly. Most of it we would probably keep. It's a good ordinance.
I was under the impression to even start this, you need the county board's permission to do your own zoning.
No, you don't.
They have to okay it, though.
Right.
Any changes, right?
Okay, well then, the representative from Door County Soil and Water is not here, so we'll jump ahead to the request for a letter of support from the Newport State Park on the International Dark Sky Association. Anybody have any questions on that? We've got the information from last time. Well, I'll make a motion then to write a letter of support for the Newport State Park joining the International Dark Sky Association. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
It's a great idea.
Oh, yeah.
Who would this be going to, though, John? I mean, it goes to the,
It will go to them, right? Am I correct?
To, well, to the park, to my boss, Michelle Hefty, her name and her contact information was on the letter that
Right.
we brought to John. And just to bring you up to date, that we have applied, and this is a months-long process, and 45 documents later, we did apply. We did mention in that application that there could be a letter forthcoming from the board, and they were happy to hear about that. So, when we get the letter, it'll be forwarded on with the rest of our application.
Who's they?
IDA, the International Dark Sky Association, in Arizona are the ones who get the formal application.
And it's just a name they give, right? If
It's
certain
a
qualifications they
designation
can't-
when there's ongoing constraints. We have to agree to have educational outreach type things at least 4 times a year and keep a certain amount of dark sky. We have to do meter readings at a minimum of twice a year to make sure we're meeting that criteria. They're pretty strict about their criteria.
so then with the letter, do you think that there might be any other problems that you foresee in getting designated that way?
We don't see any problem. We already passed the hurdle of the metering. We had to do it in 12 to 18 places throughout the park, and all of those were in the agreeable meter readings. So that was the first hurdle that they said, yes, okay, come on. So they were pretty excited about having another park in the Midwest because there's only one in Michigan. So having one in Wisconsin, the only one in Wisconsin, was a pretty neat thing. So
Cool.
they were very encouraging of us because our meter readings had to be 90% darkness or better. They have all of ours were met that or more. So that's a really nice thing.
So would the letter be something like, light pollution in order to enhance the ecosystem of the natural life, in order to better appreciate star astronomy, the town of Liberty Grove would support, just sort of give the reasons?
Sure, yeah, that would be totally appropriate. Just that they know that they are in support, that the board and the town is in support of Newport doing this is just a really great thing, so.
Okay, any other questions? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Okay, going on to Fire Board report.
Thus far this year, the calls are trending higher as they have been every year. Through mid-August, from January 1st till mid-August, there have been 92 fire calls, 178 emergency medical service calls, and seven mutual aid calls. Everybody has to know too that every time an engine leaves Sister Bay, an engine leaves the North Station and vice versa. It's not like the North Station is sort of not active, it is. Whereas the calls are up, the volunteer numbers are down. That is becoming an increasingly serious problem in that the number of volunteers is slipping away very quickly. The whole idea of volunteerism in any sense, let alone in the fire department or in the first responders, is not as popular as it had been at one time. Just to bring up the calls in the storm at the beginning of August, the fire department responded to 20 calls that during Monday.
For fires?
No, trees down and things like that. Our fire department, unlike some of the other local fire departments, will assume responsibility for things like a water main that may have broken and basements flooded, because that does protect property and ultimately could protect life as well. There was a structure fire, Sequist's structure, and then there was a rescue that involved a mutual aid call at Newport Park. A lady fell off a not too high bluff but broke her leg, but it took quite a lot of rescue to get her out. In addition, the department has held CPR and AED training classes that pretty much make up for what the Northeast Wisconsin Technical College is not doing. They've trained over 200 people in the last several months. The unspoken hero of the department in many ways is the Liberty Grove Sister Bay Firefighters Association. Contributions to that association goes directly into support the department, and that in turn obviously supports the town and the village. For example, the Firefighters Association this year supplied $60,000 for the purchase of extraction equipment that would have otherwise been an obligation for the town and the village to buy. And then finally, the Fire Board is now currently working on the Fire Department 2016 budget, like we all are. To date, there's been a proposal for a $16,405 increase over the 2015 budget. That would be 2/3 of that 16,000 would be the towns and 1/3 would be the village. The town share of the entire 2016 budget is now projected at $241,580. Of the 16,000 that I just mentioned as the increase, 25% is repayment to the grant fund, but we've already allocated that money for the grant fund. The village has not, so in that sense, it's not really going to impact our bottom line so far as what we owe the fire department. $3,500, which is another large portion of the increase, had to do with insurance premiums. No control over that. And then the last increase was something that the fire board voted on unanimously, and that is to recognize and somehow begin to compensate the current chief and any future chief in terms of what the stipend would be. And we'll discuss it at the budget.
Any questions anybody has?
I just have a comment. I've been on the fire board for quite a while, and for the first time, I found it interesting that the positions, financially speaking, of the town and the village have flipped. We now have money set aside for major purchases and can say, we can do this next year because we've been saving for it. And Sister Bay, because they are very much indebted from all the projects they've done and have used at some times money that had been set aside for fire department purchases, for municipal purchases, are in the position, well, we're gonna have to take it back to the board because we're gonna have to borrow for it. Just an
Yeah, total
observation.
Yeah, I mean, 3 years ago, I was so envious of the fact that
Mhm.
Sister Bay had been holding the money for the tanker pumper
Yeah,
for years. They just had it, it was there.
yeah,
And the town hadn't gotten around to being able to supply that money.
feels good.
The entire thing has reversed now.
It has.
We have all the expense funds, the grant fund, the capital expense fund for the fire department, and, and the chief put out a 20-year capital plan such that, if we contribute to it at the rate we've been contributing, we will not get hit with the idea of having to borrow in order to get something at that point, which is exactly where we always wanted to be. And Chief Hecht does the blue ribbon financial analysis here. I don't think you could do any better in understanding what he had done, where he's going with this, why he needs to do this, and how clearly it's laid out.
Has there been any movement on the fire district?
The fire district is probably going to start, if anything, with a request from Ephraim to see if there can be a working relationship between Liberty Grove, Sister Bay on the one hand and Ephraim on the other. Whether that has to do with the new chief or it just is the right time for Ephraim, I'm not sure. Chief Hecht seems to think that there'll be a slower accretion of the municipalities coming on once it shows that the three well, the one district that we have and the other one from Ephraim works well together. The reason for the holding back still has to do with the dispute between, or the pending dispute between the town of Egg Harbor and the village of Egg Harbor, which has been the bone of contention throughout this entire discussion.
How would that impact the Mid-Door Mutual Aid?
See, well, that's the thing, not to tell tales out of school, but it looks like, according to Chief, Mid-Door Mutual Aid is beginning to break down. And for various reasons. And it had one thing to do with new procedures that Bailey's Harbor is now having to follow. And I don't remember why those new procedures were required to be followed, which led Bailey's Harbor to think twice about a district contrary to what they had been discussing before. But the seeming breakdown of the Mid-Door group has pushed Ephraim toward Sister Bay and Liberty Grove.
Okay.
What about Gibraltar in this mix?
Yeah. Now, the chief at Gibraltar has been more in favor of a district than anyone else. And I think the change in the chair of the Gibraltar Town Board has just sort of put that on hiatus right now. But when the time is right, the Joint Committee on the Fire District is going to approach the chairs of Gibraltar and Ephraim, and the village of Egg Harbor, and see from a political point of view what is necessary or not for where they're gonna go from there. But Caleb Whitney was and has been the most vocal proponent of a fire district.
He's Bailey's Harbor, right?
Gibraltar.
Oh, Gibraltar.
Yeah. No, and Bailey's Harbor had kind of opted out, but because of these changes, and I regret, I don't remember what they were, but Brian Zock is Bailey's Harbor, and Brian is a little bit more interested in how that these new procedures are being in place, to think about maybe that would be beneficial to his department as well.
That's interesting, because they were pretty adamant at one point. Okay, any other questions anybody has? All right, if not, we'll go on to operator licenses.
We have one. It's a new one. She works out at Raleigh's Bay. Lindsay Driscoll. Her fees are paid. She passed the test, and nothing came up on the court system.
I'll make a motion then to approve the operator license of Lindsay Driscoll. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Correspondence.
I have the agenda here for the Door County Tourism Zone meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. at the town of Sebastopol. Ephraim is inviting the public to comment on their streetscape plan that they have for Highway 42. That meeting is Wednesday, August 26th, from 4 to 7 p.m. at the Ephraim Village Hall. This one, Library Commission, was held yesterday. The Planning Department, a letter that the RPC has granted a permit for the Hawkers, for the batch plant for Vinton construction at the Hawkers Quarry on ZZ. The map amendment for the zoning changes at 42 and Town Line Drive has been approved also by the RPC, making those lots more uniform in relation to the zoning classifications. Door County Shoreline Mitigation Handbook. It's quite a number of pages here that if someone wants to do something on the shoreline in order to protect the shoreline, and so things don't get any worse, if you will, there are certain steps to follow and take for the mitigation process. So that's here, and it's, like I say, it's a number of pages. That's it. Oh, I also have the preliminary statement of changes in equalized values by class and item for the town. It basically, the bottom line is an approximate $20 million reduction in equalized value. With that, the board review was held today. We had one applicant, objector, who objected with a written statement, which you can do now if the board decides to hear it. And the board did hear it, and it was denied because of what Ryan's explanation was, and the fact that when this written statement comes in, it's hard to cross-examine anybody because they're not here. There are certain things that you normally ask with oral testimony that you just don't get out of a written statement. So that was upheld. The meeting was held from 1 to 3 today.
Mr. Chair, maybe one more thing that Bud could mention about SAGBRA.
Oh yeah, SAGBRA is coming back next year. Mr. Schramm, who organizes the event, it will be his last year, and because of the success and enthusiasm and experience of all the bikers, and I talked to one of them up at the park on the last day of it, they were just in awe of the area, and this lady has been up here for 10 years, and she was still glowing about the event, so they'll be back next year, and we, in our handling of it, we now know what we can be ready for, and there were a few things that we didn't understand about it and weren't relayed to us about the event, but we've got a handle on that now, so we should be able to better accommodate them next year and take care of their needs beforehand, and we'll be ready for them next time.
That's great.
It's a real tribute to the town.
Yeah.
It really
it
is.
They're already putting out publication on
Excellent,
August 2nd and 3rd.
excellent.
And I think you said Darcy's going to give us sometime in September an economic impact of Sagbrough
Good.
on the
Excellent,
town.
excellent.
Excellent.
Could we go back to Beach Road just for a second? When do we plan to repave that?
Next spring,
Next spring?
early summer.
You know, Sister Bay found that concrete going through their downtown was almost as cheap as asphalt. I wonder if we'd be in our best interest to see how much it would cost to do it, Beach Road and concrete.
I talked to the Vinton construction people when we were videoing the Hall Road, they called it, which is basically the detour. And from their aspect, people putting this down and working with it, they don't understand why they're doing it. They don't, the engineers that are working on it they're a little skeptical of why they're doing it. So I asked them, I didn't get into deep detail with them about it, but in their opinion, that asphalt would be a better way to go, but they're just doing what they were told to do. So
Well,
we can certainly look at it
Sure,
and see,
we can look
but
at it.
I mean, if concrete costs you 20% more, it will last than 100% longer.
but concrete is not real friendly to salt, or salt is not real friendly to concrete.
Just close Beach Road in the winter.
And we use a lot of salt on the roads, and I think you can see it out here in the shop where we park the trucks, the concrete is getting eaten away by the salt.
You can see it in our garage floor.
And on the aprons down at the fire station, when we do that, we're real careful not to put any sand salt mixture down on that, because we don't want that eaten
Well,
up,
I
so.
just, I just know that Sister Bay.
Sure, we can certainly take a look at it.
Yeah, I'll discuss it a little further with those guys down there.
And the point being that the equipment's here to do it. And they have the batch plant out in Hockers.
I have a question too, for you, but on agenda item number 8, is she going to be here for our next meeting?
Maybe she quit.
Did she call and cancel with you guys? I don't know. She didn't, this time I didn't have any correspondence. Last time she couldn't make it because of her sitter, couldn't make it.
Yeah,
And this, I thought she was gonna be here tonight. I didn't hear anything different.
She was told to. When
Yeah,
we told her you'd be on the next agenda, and
okay.
Maybe
She-
figured
she
it's a
knew about
monthly
it.
meeting or something.
I do have one, one burning question for her that I'd like, I don't know that if anyone at the county soil and water or in Door County invasive species team has given consideration to the potential to bring Phragmites into the Bailey's Harbor Swamp with the 57 project. That's some pretty pristine cattail swamp through there, and it starts getting chewed up with heavy machinery. That's where they come from, and that would absolutely destroy that area environmentally. It'd be nice to be proactive about it.
Yeah.
well, we got time now because that's been pushed back
Has it?
because of state budgets
Oh,
issues.
okay.
That one and the 42
Yeah.
project too, so it's not happening next year.
Good.
Okay, future meetings.
It's lightening up a little bit here,
Yeah, don't turn the page.
Don't turn the page.
okay, for the rest of the month. Highway meets on Monday at 8 AM to talk about the beach road and the budget for the upcoming year. Finance on Tuesday at 6:30 to work on budget issues.
Is that a joint meeting? The Board and
Yeah.
finance? Okay.
On the Tuesday, September 1st, we have Parks and Property with Economic Development at 8 AM. There'll be a closed session on property purchase. Town Board, Wednesday, September 2nd, 7 o'clock. Hall closed on Monday, Labor Day, the 7th. Normally Ryan is here from Associated Appraisal, so he would not be here that day, and that means he won't be here for the month. Tuesday, the 8th, the Hoopert's variance at the Board of Adjustment. Wednesday, the 9th, Plan Commission. Finance again on September 15th at 6:30. Town Board, the 16th. IT, the 21st at 7 o'clock. And Public Information Meeting on the budget on the 22nd. Meeting at 1 PM and 7 PM. Econ meeting on the 24th at 7 PM. And I believe our budget hearing and special town meeting is set for October 13th, beginning at 7 PM. It's on a Tuesday.
Okay.
I have a question for Jan. Did you talk to those people about having that calendar roll through on the town website? So we get,
No. I don't see if it can be done. If that would be a change that they'd have to make in their whole entire system, so.
I mean, right now you look it up, it shows, the last 2 weeks in October. That's it. It'd be nice if they had the,
I know it shows the first couple of days of the month, but not any more than that.
Okay, before I move to adjourn, I will share with you, not a rule this time. This comes from Bruce Lloyd. I have no idea who Bruce Lloyd is, but if we are going to have ideas ahead of the times, we will have to get used to living with the fact that most people are going to believe we are in the wrong. I move we adjourn. Is there a
Second.
second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.